The morning had started like most operations did. Quiet in a way that never truly meant safe. Captain Emily Carter stood near the edge of the ruined tree line, scanning the settlement ahead through her binoculars. The village sat low in a shallow valley, partially collapsed from earlier strikes months ago, though intelligence insisted it was now low activity. That phrase never meant much in her experience. Low activity still meant bullets if you walked into the wrong street at the wrong time. Behind her unit waited in staggered positions. 12 soldiers. Familiar faces. Some tired, some focused, all pretending they weren't thinking about the same thing she was, that the information they'd been given didn't fully add up. Lieutenant Harris had said it during briefing without hesitation. Clear sweep, confirm no hostile presence, verify civilian absence, extract. Emily remembered how quickly he had moved past the questions. Too quickly. She lowered the binoculars and glanced back. Sergeant Mills was checking his rifle again, even though he'd checked it 3 times already. Private Gomez kept adjusting his vest straps like they didn't fit right. Specialist Rowan stayed quiet, eyes fixed on nothing in particular, the way he did when he was trying to calm himself before movement. Emily knew them all. That was the problem. Knowing them made responsibility heavier than doctrine ever described. "On my mark, we move to the first checkpoint," Lieutenant Harris said over the short-range net. Emily didn't respond. She just nodded once. They moved. The village looked emptier up close. Broken concrete walls leaned into each other like tired men refusing to fall. A school building stood without windows, its frame hollowed out by time and fire. Wind pushed dust through the streets in slow, lazy waves. No movement. That was usually what made Emily most alert. They advanced in formation, spacing tight enough for control but wide enough to avoid a single blast taking them all. Standard procedure, clean execution. Still, something in her chest stayed unsettled. Then the radio crackled. "Command, this is Echo Team moving through Sector 2. No contact yet. Over." Static answered first. Then a half-clear acknowledgement. "Copy, Echo Team. Maintain." The transmission broke. Emily frowned slightly. She adjusted her headset. "Anyone else losing signal?" she asked quietly. A few quick responses came back. All clear, all steady. Except hers still had faint distortion. Lieutenant Harris didn't slow down. "Keep moving." They turned onto a narrower street. That's when Emily noticed the silence changed. Not absence of sound, absence of randomness. Birds weren't calling. Wind didn't shift debris the way it had before. Even their footsteps seemed too synchronized with the environment, like the place was holding its breath. She raised her hand slightly. "Hold." The unit stopped. Harris turned toward her. "Why?" "I don't like this lane," Emily said. Her voice stayed calm, but her eyes tracked every angle. "Too many blind corners. We should route left through the open block." "It adds 5 minutes," he replied. "It reduces risk," she said. A short pause followed. One of those pauses where rank and experience silently argue without words. Then Harris shook his head. "We stick to plan. Keep moving." The team started forward again. Emily fell in step, but didn't lower her attention. They passed a collapsed storefront, burn marks along the metal frame, a shattered display window still holding fragments of glass like teeth. Then, a sound, not loud, not obvious, just wrong. A metallic shift somewhere above. Emily looked up. "Down!" The word barely left her mouth. The explosion didn't come like in training videos. It came fast, close, and violent enough to erase thought. A blast hit the building beside them. Concrete tore outward. Dust swallowed the street. The ground shook hard enough to throw balance off instantly. Emily hit the pavement instinctively, arms covering her head. Her ears rang, pressure building behind her eyes. When she lifted her head, everything had changed. Smoke filled the street like a curtain. She heard shouting, fragmented, disorganized. "Medic! Get down! Movement on the roof!" She forced herself up on one knee. Her vision cleared in pieces. Lieutenant Harris was on the ground near the center of the street, not moving. Emily stared for half a second longer than she should have. Then her training snapped back into place. "Contact front and right side," someone yelled. Rifle fire cracked through the smoke. Emily crawled toward Harris without thinking, then stopped herself halfway. She already knew. She turned her head instead. "Sergeant Mills!" she shouted. "Report!" Mills was behind a broken wall, breathing hard. "We've got at least 2 positions firing from upper floors. Can't see them clearly." "Casualties?" she asked. A pause. That pause said everything before anyone spoke. "Lieutenant's down," Mills said. The words landed heavier than the explosion. Emily shifted her focus immediately. No space for shock. No time for hesitation. "Who's senior now?" someone asked over the chaos. No one answered right away. Because everyone knew the answer, but no one wanted to say it. Emily stood slowly. Dust fell off her uniform as she rose. She looked at each of them once. Then she spoke into the radio, her voice steady in a way that didn't match the situation. "This is Captain Carter. Lieutenant Harris is down. I'm assuming command." There was a brief silence on the net. Then, "Copy that. Simple, official, irreversible." She exhaled once, slow. "Listen up," she said to her unit, louder now, cutting through the noise. "We are not breaking formation. We are not panicking. We establish cover positions and identify firing points. Move now." A few soldiers reacted immediately. Others hesitated. That hesitation was the most dangerous thing in the street right now. Emily noticed it, but didn't waste time calling it out. Instead, she moved first. She ran low to the side of a collapsed doorway, pressed into cover, and pointed. "Rowan, roofline, 12 o'clock. I need eyes." Rowan nodded quickly and shifted. "Mills, left flank. Keep them from pushing us in." "Gomez, check Harris, now." Gomez froze for a fraction of a second, then moved. Emily watched him go, then turned her attention back to the street. Gunfire intensified. Somewhere above them, a muzzle flash flickered through smoke. They were pinned. And for the first time since the mission began, Emily fully understood something she had only ever seen from the outside. There was no longer a commander watching over them. Only her. She pressed her back against the wall, breathing steady, forcing her mind into structure instead of fear. "All right," she muttered to herself. "One step at a time." Then louder. "Hold your positions. We stabilize first. We do not break." And in that broken street, under collapsing certainty and rising fire, Captain Emily Carter stopped being a follower of orders and became the one who had to write them. The smoke hadn't cleared when reality settled in. Captain Emily Carter stayed behind the broken doorway, listening to the uneven rhythm of gunfire outside. It wasn't a full engagement, not yet. More like probing shots, testing how the unit would react without its leader. She refused to let her mind stay on Lieutenant Harris for more than a passing second. Not because she didn't feel it, but because there was no room for it right now. "Rowan," she called. "Roof still active," Specialist Rowan replied, voice tight. "At least 2 shooters, maybe 3. Hard to confirm through dust." "Mills status," Emily said. 2 wounded I can see," Mills answered from the left flank. "One is Harris, and he's gone, ma'am." The word hit the channel like a dropped weight. A few seconds of silence followed. Not emotional silence. Operational hesitation. The kind that spreads, if not contained. Emily changed it immediately. "No one confirms anything like that over open comms again," she said sharply, controlled. "We stay focused on living threats. Everyone understands?" "Copy," came scattered replies. She adjusted her position, leaning slightly to see the street. Movement flickered at the far end, too fast to identify clearly. Enemy still watching them. Still organized. That told her something important. This wasn't random resistance. This was coordinated. And they had walked straight into it. Emily keyed her radio again. "This is Captain Carter. We are assuming hostile contact is organized and likely multi-position. requesting immediate update on extraction window and air support availability. Static answered first, then a delay, longer than she liked. Echo team. The radio finally responded. Stand by. Command is assessing situation. She exhaled slowly through her nose. Of course they were. On the ground. Stand by meant you were on your own. She looked at her remaining squad. 12 had become 11 without ceremony. And now 11 were waiting for someone to pretend the world still followed clean structure. Emily stepped forward into the partial cover of a collapsed wall where more of them could see her. This was the part that mattered most. Not tactics, not firepower. Stability. All right, she said, voice even. Listen carefully. The firing outside softened slightly, as if even the enemy paused to see what would happen next. We are reorganizing chain of command internally. Mills, you're second. You take left and rear coordination. Mills nodded once, no argument. Rowan, I need overwatch. Prioritize identifying shooter positions, not engaging unless necessary. Understood. Gomez, she continued, turning slightly. You're with me. Gomez hesitated, not disrespectfully, but emotionally. He had just confirmed Harris's condition. That was still sitting on him. Gomez, she repeated, firmer. I need you focused. He nodded quickly. Yes, ma'am. Emily continued. We do not split. We do not improvise individually. If you have a problem, you say it. If you move, I authorize it. Clear? Clear, they responded, more unified now. But she could still feel it. That quiet shift in the air when people are deciding whether they trust the new voice yet. Then Rowan spoke. Ma'am, we've got movement on the north roof. 2 figures. They're repositioning. Toward us or away? Emily asked. Toward flanking angle. That meant they were being boxed in, not attacked randomly, trapped. Emily scanned the street quickly. The layout was bad. Tight choke point, multiple broken sight lines, limited exits. Whoever planned this knew terrain advantage. Okay, she said softly, more to herself than the team. So that's what this is. Mills heard her. Ma'am? A setup, she replied. We're being guided into kill positions. No one argued. That silence confirmed she wasn't the only one seeing it. She turned slightly, pointing toward a narrow side passage between 2 collapsed buildings. We changed geometry, she said. We stopped playing in their street. Mills frowned. That passage is unstable, could collapse. It also removes their overwatch advantage, Emily said. Another burst of gunfire cracked overhead. Dust rained down. Decision time compressed. Emily didn't wait for consensus. Move in 30 seconds, she ordered. Controlled. No sprinting. Stay tight. Then she paused, just long enough to make sure they understood the weight of what she was about to say next. If we stay here, we get pinned until we can't move at all. If we move wrong, we pay for it fast, but staying is not an option. That was as close as she came to admitting uncertainty. Mills nodded. Left flank ready. Overwatch set, Rowan confirmed. Gomez swallowed hard, but stayed steady. Emily checked her weapon once, not because she doubted it, but because it was something to anchor her hands. Then she gave the order. Move. They broke from cover in a controlled rush. Not chaos, but not safety either. Emily moved with them, keeping slightly behind center, eyes tracking rooftops and window frames. Every instinct told her this was the most vulnerable point in the operation. Halfway across the street, a shot cracked close enough to snap dust off the wall beside her. Contact right, Mills shouted. Keep moving, Emily ordered immediately. They reached the narrow passage. Inside, the light dropped sharply. The walls leaned inward like they were trying to decide whether to collapse or hold. The unit compressed into tighter formation. Breathing became louder. Footsteps echoed differently here. Rowan spoke quietly. We're out of direct sight lines, but they'll predict this route. I know, Emily said. That was the problem. They weren't escaping. They were transitioning into another phase of the same trap. Her radio crackled again. "Echo Team, status update required. Confirm leadership." Emily keyed it instantly. "This is Captain Carter. Lieutenant KIA confirmed. I am in command. We are under active engagement, moving to reposition. Request extraction window adjustment and updated threat assessment." Another pause. Longer this time. Then the response came. "Copy, Captain Carter. Extraction currently delayed due to airspace restrictions. Maintain position and await further instruction." Emily closed her eyes for half a second. Not in frustration. In calculation. Delayed extraction, no air support, confirmed hostile coordination. They weren't just in a firefight. They were on their own until someone else decided otherwise. She opened her eyes again. "Everyone," she said quietly. "This just became self-managed." Mills looked at her. "Meaning what, ma'am?" "Meaning we assume no help is coming on time," Emily said. "We plan like we are alone." No one spoke for a moment. Then Rowan nodded once. "Understood." Gomez exhaled slowly, tightening his grip on his rifle. Emily looked forward into the narrowing passage. The responsibility didn't feel dramatic. It felt mechanical, like a weight that had simply shifted onto her shoulders without asking permission. And now every step forward was hers to justify. "Keep moving," she said. And deeper into the broken village, Captain Emily Carter led her unit. Not because she wanted to, but because there was no one else left to do it. The passage eventually opened into what used to be a small courtyard. Now it was rubble and fractured stone, a place where walls had collapsed outward instead of inward, leaving uneven cover and long shadows. It wasn't better than the street they left. It was just different. And different was the only kind of improvement they had left. Captain Emily Carter stepped out first, scanning before signaling the rest. "Spread in," she ordered quietly. "Controlled spacing. No cluster." The unit followed, each movement careful, deliberate. Nobody spoke more than necessary anymore. That silence wasn't discipline. It was fatigue mixed with calculation. Emily moved to a half-standing concrete slab and crouched behind it, eyes tracking the surrounding angles. Her brain was running constantly now. Entry points, sight lines, fallback routes. But something else was starting to build under it. Time pressure. Rowan's voice came through low and steady. "Ma'am, I've got intermittent movement North Ridge line. Could be repositioning again." "How many?" Emily asked. "Still unclear. At least 2 confirmed signatures." Mills added from the left. "We can't stay exposed here long. This courtyard's a bowl." Emily already knew that. The shape was wrong, too open, too predictable. But what mattered more was what she hadn't wanted to see until now. They weren't just being followed. They were being shaped. Every movement they made was being anticipated. She looked toward Gomez, who was checking on one of the wounded soldiers. The soldier's breathing was shallow, controlled, but not stable enough for extended movement. That changed everything. Emily stood slowly. "Status?" she asked. Gomez looked up. "He's bleeding, but stable for now. Movement will worsen it." Mills frowned. "We need extraction or we stabilize him in place. We can't keep dragging him through this." Emily didn't answer immediately. That was the first real break in rhythm since she took command. Stay and hold a position like this meant risking being pinned. Move meant risking the wounded soldier's condition. Either choice had a cost. She looked at the unit again, not as a formation, but as people. Mills, steady but tired. Rowan, focused but visibly strained from constant overwatch. Gomez, younger than the others, trying too hard not to show fear. And the wounded soldier, trying not to be another problem on top of everything else. Emily felt something sharp and quiet inside her chest. Not panic. Responsibility becoming physical. She turned slightly away from them, just for a second, as if distance could help her think more clearly. But it didn't. There were no clean answers here, only trade-offs. She spoke without turning back fully. "If we stay, we risk being boxed in," she said. If we move fast, he deteriorates. Mills replied carefully. Ma'am, we're already in a bad position. I know, Emily said. That was the hardest part to say out loud. Not the danger. The acceptance that there might not be a good version of this outcome. A distant crack of gunfire echoed from somewhere beyond the ridge line. Rowan immediately adjusted. They're tightening perimeter. They're not rushing us. They're containing us. Emily nodded once. That confirmed her fear. This wasn't a chase. It was containment. She looked back at the wounded soldier. Then at her team. Then at the terrain. And made her decision. We reposition, she said. Mills exhaled slightly but didn't argue. But, Emily continued, voice firm now, we control the movement, slow, structured. We do not abandon anyone. If we have to pause, we pause. If we have to cover, we cover. Understood? Understood, they answered. It wasn't enthusiasm. It was trust under pressure, and that mattered more. The movement out of the courtyard was slower than anything they had done so far. Every step was measured, every corner checked twice. Emily stayed near the middle this time, not leading from the front, but anchoring the group where she could see everything. It changed the way she experienced command, from direction to awareness, from action to consequence. Halfway through a narrow corridor between collapsed structures, Rowan stopped abruptly. Hold, he whispered. Everyone froze instantly. Emily stepped closer. What do you see? Rowan didn't answer immediately. His eyes were fixed upward. There, he said finally. Emily followed his gaze, a faint reflection on broken glass high above. Not movement now. Observation. Someone watching them without revealing position. Her stomach tightened slightly. They're tracking us, Mills said quietly. Yes, Emily replied. Gomez shifted uncomfortably. So what do we do? Emily didn't answer right away, because the honest answer was avoid being predictable. But they were already inside a system designed to remove unpredictability. She looked at the wounded soldier again, then at the only narrow exit path ahead, and understood something she hadn't fully admitted until now. Every option required risk someone would feel personally. She keyed her radio. This is Captain Carter. We are requesting updated extraction feasibility and confirmation of hostile perimeter closure. We are currently in a containment pattern. Static. Then, copy, stand by. Emily's jaw tightened slightly. Stand by, again. She released the transmit button. Mills looked at her. We're on our own window, aren't we? Emily didn't lie. Yes. That single word shifted something in the group. Not fear, clarity. They all understood it now. There was no invisible hand guiding them out yet. Only her decisions holding them together. They moved again. This time, contact came quickly. A sharp burst of fire from the upper left shattered the silence, forcing everyone into cover instantly. Dust exploded from the wall near Emily's shoulder. Contact! Rowan shouted. Suppress and move! Emily ordered immediately. Mills returned fire, controlled bursts. Gomez pulled the wounded soldier further behind cover. But the difference now was obvious. The enemy wasn't reacting randomly. They were anticipating movement timing. Emily saw it in the angles of fire. They weren't just shooting. They were steering. Left side is feeding us into the open gap, Rowan called out. Emily scanned ahead and saw it too. A narrow opening between two collapsed structures that looked like an escape route. But it wasn't. It was a funnel. A kill corridor. She raised her hand sharply. Stop movement, she ordered. Everyone froze mid-transition. Another burst of gunfire hit the space they would have just entered. Mills looked at her. That was close. That was intentional, Emily said quietly. Her mind was running faster now, not from adrenaline, but from realization. They were being guided. Every route, every hesitation, every pressure point. This wasn't survival anymore. It was manipulation. She tightened her grip on her rifle. Change of plan, she said. Mills frowned. "Ma'am." "We stop reacting," Emily said. "We start forcing them to adjust to us." A brief silence followed. Then Rowan nodded slightly. "How?" Emily looked toward the broken structures to their right, then the left, then the open ridgeline beyond, and made a decision that wasn't tactical in the traditional sense. It was psychological. "We break their expectation cycle," she said. "We move where we shouldn't logically move." Mills understood immediately. "That could expose us." "It will," Emily said, "but staying predictable guarantees we lose anyway." No one argued this time, because they all saw it now. The pattern, and the cost of staying inside it. Emily took a breath. "On my mark," she said. We stopped being guided. And for the first time since the operation began, she wasn't just trying to keep her unit alive. She was trying to take control of something that had already started controlling them. The ridgeline ahead looked like the only way out, which was exactly why Emily didn't trust it. Captain Carter crouched behind a fractured concrete wall, watching her unit settle into temporary cover positions. The gunfire had eased slightly, but that didn't mean safety. It usually meant repositioning, waiting, preparing. Rowan stayed focused on the upper angles, scanning with steady, practiced patience. Mills was checking sectors with controlled bursts of attention, trying to build a picture from fragments. Gomez stayed close to the wounded soldier, keeping pressure where it was needed, his hands steady even if his breathing wasn't. Emily noticed all of it at once. That was part of the problem now. She couldn't narrow her attention anymore. Everything mattered equally. Her radio crackled again. "Echo Team, this is Command. We have partial airspace clearance. Extraction window may open in approximately 40 to 60 minutes. Maintain current position." Emily closed her eyes for a fraction of a second. 40 to 60 minutes. In a controlled training environment, that was manageable. Here, it was survival stretched thin. She keyed the mic immediately. "Command, this is Captain Carter. Confirm we are expected to hold current containment zone under active hostile pressure for that duration?" A pause. Then, "Affirmative. Maintain position." Emily released the button slowly. Mills had already seen her expression. "That bad?" "They want us to hold," she said quietly. Rowan didn't look away from his scope. "We can't hold this position that long." "I know," Emily replied. No dramatics, no panic, just fact. The unit went quiet for a moment, each person processing the same reality in their own way. Then the gunfire returned, harder this time. Rounds snapped against stone and metal, forcing everyone deeper into cover. "Contact front ridge," Rowan called. "They're pushing?" Mills asked. "No," Rowan corrected. "They're pressuring, testing response zones." Emily watched it unfold. It was methodical. The enemy wasn't rushing. They were tightening control step by step, like adjusting a noose that didn't need speed to work. She shifted slightly, tracking muzzle flashes near the ridge. Then she saw it. A pattern. Every time they moved left, fire shifted right. Every time they stayed still, pressure increased forward. Every time they attempted to reposition, new angles opened to block it. It wasn't random harassment. It was behavioral control. "They're steering us again," Emily said quietly. Mills looked at her. Back toward the open corridor. Emily nodded once. Gomez frowned. "So what's the play then?" Emily didn't answer immediately, because the obvious answer, avoid the corridor, was already being punished, and every alternative was being cut off. She stood slowly, not rushed, not reactive, intentional. "Listen," she said, voice calm but firm enough to cut through the noise. "We are not reacting to their pressure anymore. That's exactly what they want." Another burst of fire forced them lower for a moment. Emily didn't move. When it stopped, she continued. "We switch priority. We don't look for escape routes they give us. We create space on our terms." Mills frowned slightly. "We're pinned in fractured terrain. We don't have maneuver space to create anything." "We do," Emily said. She pointed toward a collapsed structure on the right side of their position. A partial building, unstable, leaning inward. Rowan followed her gesture. That structure is compromised. Yes, Emily said, which is why they won't expect us to use it. A pause. Then understanding began to form across the team. Gomez looked uncertain. You want us to move through that? Emily met his eyes. I want us to stop moving where they are prepared for us. Another burst of fire cracked overhead, forcing dust down around them. Mills exhaled slowly. If it collapses, I know the risk, Emily said. That was the part she didn't sugarcoat anymore. Every option had a cost. The only question was which cost they could survive. She checked each of them again. No hesitation. No doubt visible anymore. Just fatigue and focus. Rowan, she said, you lead Overwatch shift. Watch for collapse timing if we commit. Rowan nodded. Understood. Mills, you control rear movement. No one falls behind. Got it. Gomez, she added, you stay with the wounded soldier. If anything shifts, you move with Mills. Gomez swallowed but nodded. Emily took a breath, then made the call. Move to structure. They crossed fast but controlled, staying low, using fractured cover as stepping points. The enemy reacted immediately, fire shifting toward them, but not fully committing. That was what confirmed Emily's suspicion. They weren't trying to stop them. They were trying to guide them. Inside the structure, the air changed. It was darker, heavier, filled with dust and the smell of old concrete and moisture. The interior walls were cracked, some sections already partially collapsed. Every step made faint sounds that carried too far. Rowan moved first, checking angles. Upper supports are unstable, he warned. We don't have much time in here. Understood, Emily said. They moved deeper. Behind them, gunfire intensified. But something else happened too. The pattern changed. For the first time since the engagement began, the enemy fire hesitated. Not stopped, adjusted. Emily noticed immediately. They're unsure about this structure, she said quietly. Mills looked back. Good or bad? Neither, Emily replied. It means we finally broke their prediction. That alone shifted something in the group's posture. Not hope, but breathing room. Inside the structure's central section, they paused briefly to stabilize the wounded soldier again. Gomez worked quickly, hands steady despite the environment. Rowan stayed alert. Movement outside, multiple positions shifting. They're re-establishing angles, Mills said. Emily nodded. They lost control of our direction, she said. Now they're recalculating. That was the opening she needed. Not victory, just disruption. But disruption was enough to survive one more step. She keyed her radio again. This is Captain Carter. We have repositioned into unstable structure. Enemy pattern disrupted but adjusting. Request immediate ETA update on extraction assets. Static. Then, copy. ETA remains unchanged. Maintain position. Emily didn't respond immediately this time. She simply lowered the radio. Mills watched her. We're still holding for 40+ minutes. Yes, Emily said. Rowan spoke quietly. We won't last that long if they relock on us. Emily looked around the structure, at the weak supports, at the exits, at her people, and understood the next truth forming in front of her. They hadn't escaped the trap. They had only stepped into a different version of it. She tightened her grip on her rifle. Then we don't hold, she said. Mills looked at her sharply. Ma'am? We survive forward, Emily clarified. Not static, not defensive, forward. Another distant burst of gunfire echoed outside, closer now. The enemy was adapting. So would she. Emily stepped toward the broken opening on the far side of the structure. Prepare to move, she said. And for the first time since taking command, Captain Emily Carter stopped thinking like someone trying to preserve a position, and started thinking like someone who understood that staying alive meant refusing to stay still. The structure gave them just enough cover to move, but not enough to feel safe doing it. Captain Emily Carter led the unit through the fractured interior, staying close to the collapsing lines of concrete. Every step felt like it was negotiated with the building itself. Dust fell in small, constant streams from the ceiling, marking time more honestly than any clock. Behind her, Mills kept the rear controlled. Rowan stayed half-focused on angles that no longer behaved predictably. Gomez supported the wounded soldier with a steady grip that didn't match his age. No one spoke unless necessary. Outside, the enemy pressure had changed again. Not heavier, smarter. The fire shifted positions, no longer trying to force them backward, but to anticipate where forward would lead. Emily noticed it immediately. They were learning her now. That thought didn't bring satisfaction. It brought urgency. "Exit ahead," Rowan said quietly. A jagged opening in the far wall showed daylight, washed out, gray, and distant. It wasn't an escape route in the clean sense. It was just the next environment where they could still breathe. "Stay tight," Emily ordered. They moved. The moment they exited, wind hit them harder than expected. Open terrain stretched beyond the ruins, broken fields, scattered debris, and low cover points that offered distance but not protection. And distance was what they needed. Emily scanned quickly. No immediate fire. That meant one of two things. Either they were temporarily clear, or they were being allowed to move into a worse position. She didn't trust either option. "Movement line east," she said. "Controlled spacing, no gaps." They advanced. For a few minutes, the only sound was boots over broken ground and distant static from radios trying to maintain connection through interference. Then Rowan spoke. "Air assets are repositioning," he said. "I can hear faint rotors, still far." Emily nodded once. "Keep moving." Mills glanced toward her. "We're almost at extraction range?" "Almost doesn't matter," Emily said. "Clear matters." They crossed a shallow depression in the terrain, using it as partial concealment. The wounded soldier was still stable, but fatigue was visible in everyone now. Not dramatic exhaustion, functional depletion. The kind that starts affecting judgment slowly. Emily felt it too, but she couldn't show it. Not even a fraction. Then the radio crackled again. "Echo team, this is forward command. Extraction confirmed inbound, marking landing zone 2 kilometers northeast. Hold perimeter until pickup." Emily stopped walking. Just for a second. 2 kilometers. Under pressure, with wounded, after everything. Mills noticed immediately. "That's tight." "It's not tight," Emily said quietly. "It's moving." Rowan looked up from his scope. "They're pushing us again." "Yes," Emily said. Gomez shifted the wounded soldier slightly. "So we go." Emily looked toward the northeast line. Open terrain, broken visibility, no clear defensive anchor. And then behind them, far but not distant enough, the enemy presence began to reassert itself. Not fire yet, movement, repositioning. They were being followed into the open. Again. Emily exhaled slowly. "This is the part they want us in," she said. Mills frowned. "Open ground advantage?" "Exposure," Emily corrected. "No cover control, no structure leverage, just movement." Rowan adjusted his grip. "We can't stay here." "I know," Emily said. She looked at her unit. They were waiting for instruction now, but something had changed. They weren't just following orders anymore. They were waiting to see if she would make the decision that kept them alive another hour, or the one that got them home. Emily felt the weight of that clearly now, not as fear, as consequence. She turned toward the northeast, then stopped, because something didn't fit. The direction of pressure behind them wasn't random anymore. It was narrowing, like a corridor forming. She slowly turned her head back toward the terrain they had just crossed. And understood. "This isn't pursuit," she said quietly. Mills looked at her. "What is it?" Emily's voice stayed controlled, but something in it sharpened. "It's escorting." A pause. Gomez frowned. "Escort?" Rowan realized first. They're not trying to stop us anymore. They're shaping our movement to the extraction zone. Emily nodded once. Exactly. The enemy wasn't trying to win the firefight anymore. They were trying to control the endpoint, which meant extraction itself might not be safe. That realization changed everything in the air between them. Mills tightened his grip. So what do we do? Emily looked at the northeast line again, then at the terrain behind them, then at her people, and made the hardest decision yet. Not about survival in the moment, but about trust in the system waiting for them. We don't follow their corridor blindly, she said. Rowan narrowed his eyes. Meaning? We verify every movement, Emily said. Every step. If something feels wrong, we break pattern immediately. Gomez hesitated. Even if it slows us down? Emily met his eyes. Especially if it slows us down. No one argued, because they had already learned what blind speed cost. They resumed movement. Slower now, more deliberate. Less like escape, more like controlled navigation through uncertainty. Every 100 meters, Emily checked angles. Every shift in terrain, Rowan scanned. Every sound behind them, Mills monitored. And the wounded soldier remained stable, but barely. Then, in the distance, faint but real, rotor noise grew stronger. Extraction was close. Too close for comfort. Emily felt it immediately, the tightening pressure of final approach, the kind of moment where mistakes become permanent. Visual contact soon, Rowan said. Mills added, still no confirmed hostile breakoff behind us. Emily nodded. That was the problem. No breakoff meant the enemy was still engaged in the structure of this movement. Still participating, still controlling variables. They reached the outer perimeter of the designated landing zone, a wide, open clearing bordered by uneven terrain and scattered debris. Too open, too clean, too perfect. Emily stopped at the edge. The unit gathered behind her. Rotor noise grew louder. The extraction aircraft would be there in minutes. And for the first time since the mission began, Emily didn't move immediately forward. She studied the zone. Every instinct she had was screaming the same thing. This was staged. Not necessarily to kill them, but to decide where the final risk would land. Mills stepped closer. Ma'am, we go in. Emily didn't answer right away, because command was no longer about movement. It was about understanding intention. Finally, she spoke. Yes, she said. But we do it on our terms. She raised her hand slightly. Final movement, she ordered. Tight formation, eyes up, no assumptions. They stepped forward. Rotor wind began to push through the clearing, and as the extraction aircraft finally came into view above the horizon, Captain Emily Carter realized something that would stay with her longer than the mission itself. Survival wasn't the hardest part of command. Accepting responsibility for every life that made it out, or didn't, was. And now, dear viewers, this is where the story of Captain Emily Carter comes to an end. What began as a routine mission turned into a test of leadership, trust, and impossible decisions under fire. When everything fell apart, she didn't have time to hesitate, only to lead. If this story moved you, thank you for staying until the end. Don't forget to support the channel with a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next military story. See you in the next one.